if I can put it in a very simple context, like biochar is a little bit like wine. Wine, you have as many wine as there are producer, and even one producer may produce different type of wines. And a very good wine that is wonderful with let's say red meat may be awful with fish. Um, so the biochar is a little bit the same. So there is not one biochar, but as many biochar there are producers, and each biochar is best at some usage and is not good at some other usage. And
Welcome to Carbon Conversations, a podcast by Biochar Life, where we explore the cutting edge of environmental solutions. From biochar to smart agriculture to the climate tech revolution, we sit down with experts and business leaders at the forefront of change. This is your host, Matt Rickard. Hey, Suzanne, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
very good. How about you? And thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm well, thanks. My pleasure. I know it's taken us a while. We've had a bit of back and forth, and I think with traveling and busyness and everything else. But yeah, good to jump on and have a chat. Before I jumped on, I was trying to remember how we connected, and I couldn't. We're obviously on LinkedIn, as many of us are, but I think I saw you on some corporate video around even pyrolysis from a long time ago or something like that. But anyway. I think as good way of starting, perhaps you can give an introduction to yourself, your background, what you do, the organization that you're CEO of would be great starting point before we jump into some of the questions.
Yeah, well, I'm Suzanne Allaire. I'm the CEO of GECA Environnement, and I have a background in agriculture and environmental engineering. And I was working in a landfill and composting and all this kind of activities in the past. And while working on a big landfill, I was I was intercepting a greenhouse gas and designing capping system. And I just thought that completely crazy. I'm not working at the right place. I have to work before the trash comes to the landfill. So I have to intercept all this tonnage and make use of it rather than just making greenhouse gas and intercepting. And GECA Environment. So I started GECA Environment because I was a food professor at Laval University in Canada with a big team, actually, of researchers. But it didn't work fast enough. I didn't help enough fast companies. So I decided to start GECA Environment to really help moving much faster the projects and solve faster the problems with the waste. So we can find solution and make good products out of that. And looking at all the technologies that were out there, I thought the technology that human do for a long period of time, pyrolysis, and that was a way to go and allows us to solve a lot of problems, not too complicated, and a lot of type of different ways. So that's how I end up building up GECA Environment.
Cool. With GECA, obviously you're working with GECA. Sorry, you're working with within the corporate sector, and for the work we do, Biochar Life, we see the corporate sector as hugely important in supporting what we do as being buyers. But more broadly than that, how do you see the corporate sector being more effectively involved in carbon removal initiatives, and what role do companies like GECA play in supporting that process?
Yeah, that's kind of weird. I work on this the biochar pyrolysis sector for more than 26 years right now, and the corporates were really absent at that time. The corporates don't move very fast, and so only in the last few years that we could see the big corporate moving in. There's different ways that they can move in, and it depends what side of they are of this process. So either they have a lot of waste and around the world and big production plant like agro-food plants, for example, that may generate a lot of waste. Some of this waste is just burnless. You just talk before about the burning of the waste that is polluting a lot the air. We see it in India and a lot of different countries. We can do a lot better with that. And some of the corporates start looking at that. They are not that advanced for most of them, but at least they start looking at that. And so transforming the waste. And we see that all over the world. It's not only multinationals, but several local corporates that they see they can have an impact. And actually, of course, money motivate them, so carbon credit motivate them. But if it does clean the planet, so
Yeah.
why not? The other way is those corporates that actually don't have much waste but consume a lot of energy, either because they use internet all the time. It's really energy consuming. As you know, the big data center may consume just as much energy as a small power plant. Um, they have cars, and they take the plane to move from one place to another, so they want to compensate the emission. And one of the way that some of them start to do, like for example, we see JP Morgan Chase and Amazon and other big corporate, they buy carbon credits for carbon sequestration or a mixture of different types of carbon credits to compensate the emission. So this is two ways that they can really work. And either way, I think it really bring money and solution on the market, and it helps moving a lot of tonnage.
You just mentioned there. Just want to go back over something you said. You talked about multinationals. I think you said something like, I paraphrase, but yeah, it's not just multinationals; it's also corporates. What are you? This is something we're always trying to understand better, because everyone knows that Microsoft, for example, are investing huge amounts in carbon removal, and now we're seeing Google come in, and then you've got Frontier, the buying group. But do you see that kind of, when you say corporates, I'm assuming you mean that kind of still big companies, but the layer below where they're not those huge brands? Are you seeing the same sorts of kind of motivations and movement and investment in the space from that kind of layer of businesses?
Yeah, when we look at forest industry, for example, they do have a lot of waste. It's very simple. When you do a lumber lumber wood, you start from something that is round, you make it square, right? So at some point you have a lot of waste, and that's the same thing all around the world. So those people use part of it for most of it, but some part of the trees are more difficult to exploit, like branches
Yep.
and bark and those kind of tree parts. So for them, it's either they pile it up and it decompose and go back to the air, and oftentimes it causes microclimates where some insects and bugs and parasites can develop, and it can cause a lot of problems. But that's what have been done for hundreds of years. But now with this solution of biocarbon and biochar and bio oil through pyrolysis and gasification, then they have a very nice solution to help manage their product. And it's the same thing for people that do, let's say, sugar from sugar cane, and other rice husk that they need to transform. And we know that in India they burn it. In another, a very hot country where they produce rice, they use to burn the leftover. And why not making a new product that will help you sequester carbon, improve your soil, and improve your production? So that's a lot of advantages for these companies.
So, something I thought we would see more of, and maybe we will, and maybe there is, and we just haven't, within our organization kind of come across it so much, but is the kind of insetting model where you've got these organizations where that waste is their own and they create the credits to, inset, or they remove the carbon to inset against their own footprint. Do you see a lot of that? Have you seen that? I'm hearing a bit of it in the cacao supply chains, but yeah, just some of the talk some of the things you were saying there made me think about companies that have that waste within their own supply chain and it could be used to offset. Are you seeing those kind of insetting programs? Is it something, that you expect to see more of?
Absolutely. We see it more and more. At first, it was more somebody that was looking at the waste of a third party and say, I want to have access to this waste and transform it.
Hmm.
But more and more people within their farm, within their association, organization, they agglomerate the waste and use it for themselves. And then they try to get the carbon credit out of it. So it's a win-win situation where or even in the supply chain. So they buy from farmers and they return the biochar or bio oil to the farmers either for very cheap amount of money
Yeah.
or even for free. And some even share the carbon credit revenue so that everybody wins to have a better management of the waste.
Cool. I know you mentioned earlier, obviously biochar, pyrolysis, a lot of the stuff that we do. You've been around way longer than I have in terms of that technology. You talk to people every day that are a couple of years in this industry because there are so many elements of it that are new. And I mean, in that vein, what in terms of right now, what are some of the kind of promising innovations you're seeing in carbon removal? What are some of the things you're excited about today and in the future that's happening in the sector, and also relevant to GECA and the work you do?
Yeah, there's a lot of things happening in the carbon removal. Of course, there are some technologies that are very costly and the co-benefits are very slow, like the direct air capture. There is not much co-benefits. So for me, and I'm a scientist, I like to see new technologies. At the same time, I'm down to the earth as an agronomist. And I want to see that we use very simple, we use as simple technology as possible so that it's accessible around the world. And what we see that is very promising, actually, it's where we can use a lot of tonnage for low quality of the char, because the char may be either contaminated or they may have a lot of ash because it's made from sludge or things like that.
Yeah.
So not all the char has very good quality, and for those low quality that otherwise would have gone to landfill or burn or those kind of things, we have solutions that are coming more and more, like in the concrete, in the asphalt industry.
Yep.
We know that we are not going to stop as human beings using asphalt and concrete. We are actually using more and more million of tonnage every year. So by bringing those products a lot greener and a lot sustainable will make a very big difference. And we know that concrete that has, for example, biochar into it, it changes the behavior, water retention behavior. It resists better to the environment. So we have the demand should decrease over time. In addition to the fact that it's good for the environment because we sequester the carbon for as long as the biochar is in the concrete and we don't destroy the concrete, and the asphalt is the same. And so biochar in asphalt, for example, improve a lot the quality and the resistance and the duration of the asphalt. So it's all beneficial for those people that are using it and for any car driver and any population on this earth, in addition to all the co-benefits that it brings when we transform this waste into valuable products.
Yeah, the biochar.
So this is.
Oh, sorry. Carry on. I didn't mean to butt in.
Go ahead.
No, you go for it. Carry on.
So I believe that this is a very simple solution but apply everywhere in the world, and also can solve a lot of problems with the tonnage that we have to place.
Yeah, right. I was just about to say that when you mentioned about concrete, so this is not, particularly where we play as an organisation. However, just in the last few months, we signed an MOU with SCG, Siam Cement Group. I'm here in Thailand, and they provide or supply pretty much all of the cement or all of the concrete, and they're looking at producing a concrete with biochar that will replace the cement element of the concrete. But my question was going to be, where are you seeing the best use cases for this? I asked this purely out of, also my own interest, because we're kind of learning this new area of where biochar can be used. Are we just at the beginning of learning about this from a scientific point of view? Is there a long way to go? Are there certain countries that are just a long way ahead? Because it seems like a really exciting area in terms of where biochar particularly can be used in an industrial product.
Well, scientifically speaking, we know where biochar can be used, how we can use it, and what the properties are needed, and how to make it. The science aspect is not the limiting factor. The limiting factor is transferring this information to people, because one biochar can be really good for one application but may not be good for another application. And most of the people think that biochar is biochar, but if I can put it in a very simple context, like biochar is a little bit like wine. Wine, you have as many wine as there are producer, and even one producer may produce different type of wines. And a very good wine that is wonderful with let's say red meat may be awful with fish. So the biochar is a little bit the same. So there is not one biochar, but as many biochar there are producers, and each biochar is best at some usage and is not good at some other usage. And most of the people don't know how to use it. So that's a lot of education to do, and that's one of the limiting factor, because some people will use a biochar and say, "Oh, you told me biochar is really good for that," and actually it did very badly in my application. Yeah, you didn't have the right biochar.
So that's a great description. I've never heard anyone describe biochar as a type of wine. I like wine, so it's good for me. But funnily enough, I don't know if you know Hans Peter from Ithaca. I don't know.
Yeah.
You do know Hans Peter, and you do know that he's in the wine. He seems to be in the wine business as well as the biochar business. So that's interesting as well. Okay, so you already knew that, but as you were telling that, I couldn't help think of that. So, fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
On the financing side of this, we're consistently looking, as anyone who's on the production side of this is always looking for financing. Anyone who's trying to remove carbon, from the project level is looking at financing. In terms of funding projects, how do you see the funding landscape? I know we've talked about it off camera a little bit, and what role do investors play? It's a different kind of investment landscape. Is it companies that should be investing? Is it the kind of more traditional, the banking sector? Yeah, talk to us a little bit about the kind of funding aspect of removal.
Yeah, carbon sequestration with biochar. I will not talk about other types. It could be biochar, bio-oil injection into the ground. I'm not going to talk about the other carbon sequestration system. There are different ways that financing can work, and I think people become very innovative in that sense. What we see that work best for big projects is when people have 3-4 partners investing in the project. So you have the feedstock, the technology, or the operator, and the buyer of the main product that all invest in the same project, and usually those move forward. If a corporate just wants to do it by itself, unless it is the feedstock generator and the consumer in its chain, it may work as well. But so usually you have several co-investor at first, and then you have this different funds that have been developed, like UPNA, Inland Sys, and Grain Ecosystem, and other type of investors that are specialized and really want to have an impact in the world for using their investments. So, and those people, several of them have been trained with the carbon credit from day one. like with the forest industry, because the carbon credit exists for more than 20 years. So some has already have their hands into it and understand the difficulties in building such projects, and are willing to be more patient with a lower return on investment. So it needs to be special investors. We see more and more standard investor like New York, uh, New York type of investors, but they are risk adverse, and with this type of investment, you cannot completely decrease the risk. So what we do to bring more investors, more classic investors, if I can say, is that at GECA, we have partnership with Inlandsys and Grain Ecosystem, and we are negotiating with other people. So we increase the quality of the projects and de-risk the projects so that the investing is easier for those type of investors. So it will bring more investor on the table, because this is probably the biggest and largest difficulty to develop this type of projects. And so when we work with these funds and investors, that of course they are specialists of financing, so they do due diligence on investing, but we help them to do due diligence on technology and market, and help the project developers to decrease the risk through different aspects that we can see when we analyze the projects. So we really bring the project to a higher level and de-risk them and improve their revenues. So it's easier to invest in.
Are you talking specifically about carbon removal? Are you talking more broadly around avoidance and other areas?
When we work with projects, and for all type of carbon credits project, our thing is the same thing. And when we work with project, of course, we work with carbon removal, but we look at all aspects of the projects, which means also avoidance.
Yeah, right. And I suppose I asked that question. It's a bit of a leading question, but in terms of your view on and what you're seeing working with corporates and customers and removal specifically, what are your kind of short and long-term views? Obviously last year was a tricky year just in general, because if you didn't really understand a lot of the space, you're trying to get to grips, you're just seeing this word of, carbon credits and people stepping down from jobs. And obviously there's a lot of nuance inside the industry that people don't see from the outside. But, now we've kind of gone through that, and there's more of a maturity growing in the removals market. What are your, I suppose, any insights, and what's your vision for the kind of investment side of the removal space? What do you hope to see, over the next kind of year to 5 years?
Yeah, there's a lot of, we work very closely with Puro and Vera and VCS and different standards. And sometimes we raise some flags and difficulties that may come along. I think that over time, the projects, people will understand better how to build up the projects, because early time with the biochar and bio-oil industry, it was pops and moms doing projects. So they didn't understand when it was not their business. They didn't understand how to go and make a project interesting to an investor. So that was very difficult. People were really convinced that was the right thing to do, but yet they had difficulties to get finance. Now that the industry is going a little bit more mature, people understand better what is needed, but they still need a lot of help to bring a very solid project. And so that's coming. Some people like us are doing similar work around the world, so helping them to bring to the level the projects. And the investors are also more patient and understand better. So that's why we take agreement with those type of investors, an investor group. And the corporates also, they bring the industry to move faster and with more rules and regulation, if I can say, in a sense that, like, if you take the I don't know, the forest industry is used to have a lot of, standards and rules and CFS, and so that they impose some of their way of working to the biochar industry, so that it increase the speed of adjustment, because it's a very young industry, and so it needs to learn from the other industry, and that's what's is going on right now from different industry. Asphalt, concrete, they are very old industry, very stable
Yeah,
industries.
right.
Uh, and so they bring somehow a maturity that this biochar and the pyrolysis industry doesn't have yet.
And
And so it's coming.
and how do you see the I'm assuming throughout your career you would have also dealt with government in particular areas, maybe not, I don't know, but how do you see the role of government and corporate sector differing, or should it be closer and more interlinked, or what yeah, what good things and bad things can you say, I suppose?
Yeah, there's a lot of things going on right there. Lobbying against, lobbying pro. The corporate sector and the government are very highly linked together, because the corporate sector is used to lobbying, which is good or bad, doesn't matter, in a sense that they lobby and we have to work with that. Um, but when the lobbying is pro, um, some, like the U.S. government decided to develop the program 336, which favor a lot the use of biochar in farming management, and that brings a lot of money into the table. So when people look, okay, what can I put on my farm, and I want to subsidize, a financial subsidize, then I have the choice between compost and biochar. So that helps a lot. And why is that? Is that that was lobbying, but not for the corporate, but from an association of people thinking, we believe in biochar.
Yeah.
And so that is very strong. And so no need to be corporate to have an influence on the government. You have to be well organized and have a strong argumentation well established. Um, but everybody can do it if they do the work right. On the corporate side, at first we saw a lot of lobbying against biochar, like the potting mix, because the potting mix, for example, for growing media, the larger owner are owner of peatland, and they want to exploit the peat, right? But peat exploitation is a mining industry,
Yeah.
so people forget about that. And now several governments decided that, okay, peatlands is a very important resource that we have to stop exploiting and opening new ones. So then the peat industry was at first looking at biochar as a competitor. Now they see it as a solution to save their peatland, to be able to exploit them on a longer duration. So this corporation switched their opinions within 10 years. And so you say, oh, 10 years is a very long time, but actually on the industry aspects, is a short time. So, and same thing for the oil and gas industry. The oil and gas industry was looking at bio oil and biochar and bio coal and all those kind of things as a problem. They didn't want to put a renewable product in their solution, but then when some government imposed them to do it, they said, okay, well then, if I have to buy it, why don't I do it? And they have more capacity, financial capacity, and brain capacity than small corporation to develop their project and product and process. So that helps to move the industry faster with higher quality control, because they won't buy and they won't produce slump product. They have to have a very constant quality, and that brings to the industry a kind of a knowledge and I would say just working for the name in English, but understanding on how production should be. And so the corporation were at first against this kind of industry, but now they have to move toward it because of rules and regulation of different governments.
Cool, makes a lot of sense. And talking personal motivation, apart from biochar and fine wines, what motivates you in the fight against climate change? What are your personal motivations, and how does that shape your leadership within the organization? So.
And within the industry as well. I will just let you know a little story that when I was a teenager, I like to play in the water, and I was out in the back, in the backland, near the forest, where the water is very, very, very clean. We could swim in this water without any problem. It was so clear and so nice, and we just put our face in and see all the fishes that were there. Just know that I'm in Quebec. It's a forested land. But then I wanted to go play with my friends in the St. Lawrence River, and my parents said, "No, you will get sick. The water is too dirty." And I said, "How can that be? At that time we were only 6 million people in Quebec, in a such super big land. How can it be so dirty?" And I went anyway, and I was sick. I got sick. I couldn't believe it. And then since then I decided that I cannot accept how human being can be so dirty and ridiculously not worry about their own environment. So I decided, I was a teenager, that I was going to clean the planet. And that's what I'm working. And so I'm waking up in the morning, every morning, knowing that I'm cleaning up the planet every single day, through helping project with hundreds and thousands of tons every year. That is going to be transformed in a clean way, and this product is not going to be trash or waste. It's going to be reused, just like the environment does. And how does it shape how I work in the morning, and how we manage my team. And the thing is that in my team I only select people that are really convinced that they are gonna wake up in the morning and make a change in this world. And I think that they do, and they are very happy to do it, and they are very convinced in their way that they do that. And what motivates as well is that we know very well that a human being in a dirty environment is not, it doesn't feel as good. It feels that it doesn't deserve a good life. It's perform less and is less happy. And so when we can clean the environment by transforming all this waste, it's giving these people a better life, we hope at least, and better health, and hope that it's going to be better.
That's a powerful story, Suzanne. Thank you for sharing, and clearly following your passion from a young age. So I didn't have any other questions. If there is anything I didn't ask that you'd like to share, then please let me know. Otherwise, it would be also great if you can share your details of where people can find out more about yourself and GECA, and I can also put those in the speaker notes.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's thank you, Matt, for having us, and I hope that everybody that is listening today understood what I'm saying, and hope that you can embrace this idea of cleaning up the planet through waste transformation. And I truly believe that we can have a very, very big impact on this earth and on everybody. And so you can reach me at Suzanne Allaire at well, Matt, I will let you my email address. And our website is GECA, GECA, enviro.com. So GECAenviro.com, you can see on our website, and you can contact us through that as well.
Cool. Well, anyone listening or watching, I will put that in the speaker notes. But yeah, thanks a lot for taking some time out of your day, Suzanne. It's great to meet. And yeah, Go for it. You got
Just
something
one thing
else.
I
Go
wanted
for
to
it.
add as
Please do.
yes, absolutely. We are very proud of our industry and we are very active on LinkedIn as well. So we like to share on LinkedIn every good things that people do around in this biochar, bio-oil, pyrolysis, gasification industry. So we put all the time, every week, several posts on what's going on out there that is good for you, for the planet, and for transforming the trash.
Cool. Well, I'll also
So
put that there, and that's probably how we found each other. So, yeah,
I think so.
it's been good to finally jump on the podcast, and yeah, have a great day ahead. So,
Thank you. You too. A wonderful evening.